Meditation, self-help, mindfulness, personal growth, and mental health.
Should you or not commit suicide? This is a good question.
It can be a daunting task to try to navigate through the jungle of different approaches, ideologies, and practices that are available today. I've been through quite a few different things trying to find out exactly what worked for me. And over the past 5 years of trying to find that right approach, there's still this one app that I've never moved on from. And it has everything to do with this voice.
Hi, my name's Andy, and I'm going to show you a really simple way of getting some more headspace in your life.
What you just heard is the voice of Andy Padikome, a former Buddhist monk and the founder of the Headspace meditation app, an app that has been downloaded more than 65 million times. Let's talk about Headspace. Alright, the Headspace app is essentially just an app in which you can listen to guided meditations. And while that is a big part of the app, I think this app has so much more to offer. So I want this video not just to be a review of the app, because, spoiler alert, I really love it. I've been using it for 5 years and I think you should go download it right now. But it will also be a showcase of some of the features of this app. Because there's a bunch of features in this app that I didn't know existed when I started, and probably you don't know that they exist too. So alongside these features that I want to showcase you, I want to introduce you to some of the lessons that I learned along the way of using this app. And they're all quite linked to the features of this app, so these two parts will go hand in hand. So here's some lessons I learned from using Headspace. Meditation is not quite a team sport, and we often feel alone when we sit to meditate. So it's so important to remind ourselves that we are not alone when we're meditating. Literally hundreds of million people around the world are meditating every day. And I think remembering that can help us keep that motivation when things get tough and difficult. Because naturally they are going to get difficult. When we start to meditate, we run into a bunch of different problems. Our body is aching and our mind is restless, and things are going on that sort of come in the way for us pursuing this discipline of meditation. So we need somehow a guidance that can lead us through some of these issues and guide us through them. And if we don't have a teacher near at hand, it's really nice that some of the issues and the problems that people run into when meditating are addressed in the teaching of the meditation itself. And Headspace does this in a really nice way. One way they do it is that they have Andy, the founder of the company, sort of record a lot of the guided meditations throughout the app. And Andy himself has been a Buddhist monk in the monasteries of Himalaya, so he knows quite a lot about meditation, right? And he's really good at sort of addressing some of the common issues, the common obstacles that people run into when they start meditating, and doing it in a way where you don't feel like you're wrong because you get restless or itchy or fall asleep while meditating or get bored, or whatever. He does it in a really nice way where you feel welcomed and where you feel like, oh, okay, this is normal for me to have some difficulty in the exercise. And Headspace actually recently partnered with Netflix to make this series, which is really awesome, and you should totally check it out, which is about some of these common obstacles and how we can start meditating and what it works for and so on. It's really awesome. It's very visual, so if you want to learn about meditation in a more visual way, then I really recommend those. But it's sort of the same concept, sort of addressing some of these very beginner issues and how we can use meditation and learn about meditation. And this naturally leads me to one of the features of this app, which I think is the most important feature of the app, which is that they have a small little section called Common Obstacles. And it's basically like a list of different animations that you can watch, that each of them, they address sort of like a common issue or a common obstacle that people face when they sit down to begin the journey of meditation. So it can be a question like, what do I do when I feel sleepy during meditation? Or what if I feel a little bit itchy or aching? What if I feel restless or bored, and so on and so on. And addressing some of these common issues can help you navigate through them and find advice for them. And not only that, I guess it also in some way gives you sort of like a sense of community, because you realize, wow, since all these videos exist, well then obviously I'm not the first one to experience these difficulties. And I think in many ways that's also what I learned from these meditations and animations, that there's nothing wrong with me just because I have some difficulties. Just because I'm like falling asleep sometimes while meditating, or my mind starts wandering, or I start thinking about what I had for lunch, that doesn't mean I'm bad at meditating or there's something wrong with me. That's just common obstacles. Everyone has them now and then, right? So by not resisting these obstacles and difficulties and sort of leaning into them, I think you can enrich in your practice. You can actually sort of deepen your meditation, because essentially meditation is just observing and having an awareness of what is present in this moment, right? Seeing things for what they are, not trying to change anything, but just observing. So the moment you let go of trying to resist that difficulty, that tension, that itchy, that restlessness and boredom and whatever, then you are meditating. So I think that's a lesson I learned from not trying to resist my difficulties, but realizing that I'm not alone, so I can lean into it and observe it. So the second lesson is the lesson of format. And format means when to meditate or how to meditate and what meditation is in general. And I think for me, when I started getting into meditation, I had this very clear idea of what meditation meant. And for me, it was this image of someone sitting like this with closed eyes and no thoughts and complete silence, being bald and having monk's robes on, on the top of a mountain. And when you have fantasies like this about what it means to meditate, which a lot of people have similar ideas of it, well, then you're quite limited, right? Because if all these requirements have to be met before you can sit down to meditate, well, then you're never going to meditate. And I think that happened for me a lot. In the beginning, when I started getting into meditation, I would only meditate maybe once a month, because I really had to have that moment before I was ready to meditate. And this approach of mine has changed ever since. And Headspace has been a big part of that, because they have a really nice approach to this topic of format. What does it mean to meditate? When can we meditate? Where can we meditate? And I'm going to explain it more and show you some features. But I think to sum it up, you can think of meditation not as an action, not that we do meditation, but to be meditative, more as a presence, as a being. Because when we do meditation, it sort of limits us to an activity, right? I'm going to do this thing. But being meditative is something that can be present in every action, right? And I think that's how we should see meditation. That of course we can sit like this and be meditative, but we can also take a walk and be meditative. We can cook and be meditative. And we can drive a car and be meditative, and so on. So Headspace has some really cool features to sort of make you be meditative in your everyday life. And now these features are sort of split into 3 sections, I would say. One is the sitting meditation, the courses and the singles of the app that as classic meditation. We sit like this with eyes closed and we listen to something, we take it in, and then 10 minutes later we leave again. But there's also a section which is the move section, which means that we can do sports, we can do workouts, so we can take walks. And there's a bunch of stuff in that category too. And then there's the sleep, which is the third category, meaning that if you want to wind down, take a nap, or if you want to fall asleep and just sort of calm the body down, then there's the huge section for that, which is just dedicated to giving you sort of sleep casts, they call it, a bit like a podcast, but things that you can fall asleep to. And they have these wind downs, which are sort of like exercises of the mind to make you calm down. So all of a sudden they sort of widen the scope and say meditation is not just sitting. Well, it's the whole palette, right? We can do everything while being meditative. They even have courses about how to prepare for exams, courses for how to do this and that. And this sort of broadens your scope to think of meditation not as something that has to be limited to sitting here on a cushion with your eyes closed, but something that you can do at every moment. Even while watching a YouTube video, you can be meditative. Alright, so one of the things I've used the most in one of these apps in the move section is the walking in the city. So I can really recommend this. I think I've listened to this probably like 200 times or something like this. An incredible amount of times, because I just love these, like it's 10 minutes and you walk around a path that you've probably walked, or a route that you've probably walked like 1,000 times, but you never really noticed it. So this sort of widening up your senses and your perception and just becoming aware of the color of the sky and the sounds and the sights you see along the way can really be a nice way to sort of have a mindful walk, right? Being meditative while walking. So I think the lesson I learned from these features and this approach to meditation as something that is available at every moment is that I can meditate whenever. And I think that approach in itself has made me stop up a lot of times in my everyday life. Just all of a sudden, I sort of become aware of where I am and what's going on in a quite different way. It's sort of like waking up. And that experience I've had on buses and trains and while taking a walk. And I think just sort of not limiting your mind to thinking this is meditation, but thinking this is meditation, everything is meditation, can be meditative at least, sort of makes you open up the possibility for every moment to be quite extraordinary and you to be quite present in that moment. So I think I really learned that lesson from just trying to do these meditations while walking and while running and while falling asleep. When I first started meditating, I had this idea that meditation is something you would do to sort of improve your brain, to get better focus, better concentration, and maybe find enlightenment, whatever that means. But I think my idea of what meditation is has changed a lot over the years, because I think now I see meditation as something that doesn't just impact your brain, like sort of betters your brain, improves your brain, but also something that impacts every aspect of your life. It makes you be more compassionate, it makes you have more self-love, and it impacts your communication and does your relations, right? I think it impacts every aspect of life if you allow it to. And I think Headspace has a really nice approach to this, because in the app you have the choice to try so many different courses and singles and different meditations, guided meditations that you can listen to that addresses a bunch of different aspects of life. So if you're dealing with grief because you lost someone, well then listen to a meditation about that and how we can have meditation impact that aspect of our life. If you're trying to get out of the stress from work, well then there's a course for that and you can listen to that and have that impact that aspect of your life, and so on. We can keep going. Like there's even a meditation on how to wash your hands in a mindful way, right? So I think we can think of this app Headspace not just as a guided meditation app that can help you focus and concentrate better, but also as a sort of like a little pocket therapist that you can pull up and help you address some of the issues and the things you're going through in your life. Because for most of the things that most people go through, common sort of issues and obstacles that can arise in your life mentally and emotionally, then there's probably a course for that. And I tried that myself. I used to have this really strong addiction for sugar or craving for sugar. I would always want to eat things with sugar in them. And so I turned to one of these courses on the Headspace app. One of them is called Coping with Cravings, which was simply a course with guided meditations that could help you sort of navigate through the cravings that you experienced and change your perspective on these cravings. So that whenever I had this craving to eat some sugar, well, I learned some new techniques to sort of manage that better and relate to it in a more calm and more mindful way. And eventually, and I guess that's a part of a bigger picture and a bigger story, but eventually I got to a point where I don't eat sugar anymore, or at least I eat very minimal sugar and I don't feel like I'm craving and addicted to it. So I think that's a lesson I really learned from all these courses, that whatever you're going through in life, whatever thing you might be facing of difficulty right now in your life, emotionally or mentally or a job or in school or whatever it might be, well, there's probably a course for that and you should go check it out, because it can help you change your perspective. It can help you guide through these difficulties in a really beautiful and mindful way. So that's the video, and that's Headspace. And I really think you should go download the app right now, give it a try. It is behind a paywall, most of the content, which kind of sucks. So you have to pay like maybe $13 a month, but give it a try just for 1 month. And if you don't like it, then cancel it. I think that's my advice. But I really like it. And while you're still here, you should totally go ahead and click subscribe, because I do a bunch of videos on this topic. So if you want to explore these topics with me, please go ahead and do that. So thank you so much.